Hello, Marcello. It's nice to have this meeting about this very, very fascinating topic, which is artificial intelligence applied to strategic marketing. I am Catherine Montrade. I work for international clients in the area of FMCG goods, services, security, since more than 13 years with my company called CMP Insights. I'm a researcher. I try to keep up with the very, very, very quick changes and improvements and revolutions brought by AI. And I thought it was really important to have the point of view of an expert like you to be able to go to the next level as far as the possibilities of artificial intelligence can be used by me and by my clients. So I'll let you present yourself now.
Hi, Catherine. Very nice to meet you as well. I have a lot of experience in market research. I've been in this field for the last 26 years and always been fascinated by the consumer behavior and what are the drivers behind their decision making. Lucky enough, I was pioneering AI when it was first launched and wasn't mainstream yet. And I realized that there was some sort of disconnection between what was emerging and the market need. So basically, market researchers were definitely needing something new, a new way to analyze data, a new way to define what is the strategic direction for a company. But at the same time, they were lacking IT fundamentals, while IT people were having great ideas and developing all these AI tools and AI agents, but of course, they lack knowledge in the market research. So, 4 years ago, I started specializing in joining the two dots and basically acquiring knowledge in terms of AI and IT, so that market research can have the right tool and the right approach to solve decision-making challenges.
Right.
Maybe it's worth also mentioning that I run my own agency called the Lime Agency, based in the US, but I specialize in international markets. So mainly the US and Europe, but also overseeing other countries as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I propose we go directly to the heart of the topic, and I think that you have quite a new and different way to define what AI can bring to market research. And I will let it explained by you with your own words.
Absolutely. So when AI first came out, people started thinking, "Oh, it's the new Oracle. We can ask anything we want to AI." But there are pros and cons, and there are obviously some limitations. We can understand how AI works by making some analogies. So AI and all the LLMs that are actually working behind every AI activity, we can probably define them as somebody who knows a little bit of everything. And this is how you should really consider the use of LLMs. So somebody who knows a little bit of everything, but in order to get the right answers, you need to provide the right questions. And that's why everything started, the old buzz is about prompt engineering, which is basically the right way to make the right questions to have the right answers. And of course, in order to get the right answers, with your questions, your prompts, you're making LLMs experts in your field, in this case, market research.
Okay. Concerning this very important topic for you and I, which is the identification of most relevant and salient business insights. What can AI bring in this area of identification of the relevant insights?
So let's first define the role of AI. AI, a lot of people are afraid that AI is going to steal their jobs. AI is going to replace researchers. Uh, it is nothing like this. AI is a new friend, is a new assistant, and it's just enabling us researchers to do more. So, um, what I usually say is that our role is changing, and instead of being the experts in providing the right answers, we're becoming the experts in providing the right questions. So, where LLMs and AI can help, definitely in terms of making things faster. Just imagine 10 data files and you need to find connections between so many data points. Humanly speaking, it will take months. AI can definitely shorten the time and do it in few minutes. So one thing is definitely to make things faster. And if you provide the right prompt, as I said in the beginning, it can also make it more accurate.
Uh,
Because something that we need to take into account, AI is a machine, doesn't get tired.
yeah. And what about the AI being really right and not wrong, dealing with very big files, as you mentioned, very big data files? How can we check that the work is really true? I had some experience with codification of verbatims in quantitative research with AI, where I actually realized that the AI I was using at that time was not able to calculate precisely the incidence of some insights and verbatims.
So there's a structural problem, and there's also a data ingestion problem here. So when you use AI, there are two ways to treat your data. One is the local knowledge base. And when I say local knowledge base, that means that AI is actually getting your file as a whole and analyzing the file as a whole. Or RAG systems. In RAG systems, AI is basically chopping your data file into little chunks and approaching them one by one. So when you do that, of course, the machine is not able to analyze the whole file, and that's why you get misleading answers because it's not connecting the dots between different data points within the same file. So local knowledge base is something that works very well, and um, platforms like ChatGPT or Claude, if you notice now, they do have the possibility to create projects where you can store the file there, and and the machine is actually accessing the file locally and analyzing it as a whole. But there's another challenge. Since you're dealing with a platform that used by a million people at the same time, AI infrastructures like Claude and ChatGPT cannot really keep everything in memory for a long time. So, especially when you're doing analysis and you're making several questions, the platform tends to forget the initial data and goes a little sideways. And sometimes you see that it's taking even more time to provide the answer, and the answer as you proceed in the chat becomes less and less accurate. And that's why people are starting building custom AI agents where they solve this problem. But they're custom solutions.
Okay, so that means of course, they implied IT development.
Yes. One other challenge that needs to be addressed, as I really like stressing on this thing, prompt engineering is the most important thing when you deal with AI. So there was an old rule in machine learning that's now also applied to AI, which is garbage in, garbage out. That means that not only the data file, whatever it is, qualitative, quantitative, or social media scraping, needs to be accurate and well formatted, but also the questions we are making needs to be very accurate. Let's remember that we're speaking to somebody who's an expert of a little bit of everything. So we need to define the boundaries. The prompt has to start with defining what the role is. So we need to start with, and I mean, this is the example if we use directly ChatGPT, right? Not a custom agent. So you need to start defining you are a director of market research, expert in statistical analysis. You want to perform a segmentation with this and that and be very specific. So that's why if you want an accurate answer, you need to make a very accurate question. Um, I like making this analogy again. If you have a new intern, an assistant, you need to provide very accurate instructions if you want the new assistant to provide a very accurate result to you. AI is the same.
Yeah, it's a good metaphor. Yeah. When you need to train your AI as good as you need to train a new person in your team.
Absolutely. Yes.
And this implies often for, especially in market research, quite some time before you can really jump into let it go and get results.
Yeah, you raised a good point. In order to get very accurate results from AI, you need to train AI first. So you need to teach AI on what you want, and then you let AI do what you want at a larger scale. So if you want, let's say you want to get a sentiment analysis, then it's very useful to provide some examples saying these are 50 conversations and I rate them with this sentiment score. Now learn from me, learn how I score them and apply it to the rest of the file. That applies also when it comes to qualitative analysis. It's always better that you explain how to do the analysis. And even the more you provide, even if you provide examples, the more you provide, the better result you get from AI.
Okay, that's very clear. I think you went quite in depth about what I would say the golden rules for prompting. I don't know if you see something additional to share related to prompting.
Um, so let me do a recap and add a couple of things
Mhm.
more. So we said, first of all, do not assume AI is an expert in your field. It will become an expert in your field only if you provide the instructions on how to be an expert. The second is don't take everything that comes from AI for granted. It may still contain some issues and some incorrect answers if you don't provide a very accurate question. Last but not least, avoid long chats because when you do a long chat, the memory is not that extensive, so it starts going sideways, and sometimes it's very funny because I need to make this example. You get a file which is the result of the analysis, and then you make more question, and then you start raising doubts, and AI sometimes tells you you may have an error in that file. And you're like, but you generated the file. So why do you say you may have an error? You should know that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that's not because AI is not working. It's because the chat is so long that AI is not keeping memory of everything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Well,
like to add
sorry, what
some.
do you call a long chat? What is the length we should avoid on one specific topic?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a real limit because it really depends on how deep you go with your questions. But if you see that you're already 20, 30 questions into the chat, then
Okay.
the reliability starts decreasing. It's like a survey. Survey, if you make too many questions, then the reliability and validity of answers starts decreasing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about the same with AI. I wanted to add one more thing. Um, Exposing your data to AI. When you upload your data into AI, it may be training the the model for other people. So you're basically making your data not directly public, but you're actually using the data to train the model. And that creates a lot of privacy concerns, of course. Now, ChatGPT and uh, Claude did solve this problem, but only partially,
Mm-hmm.
because if you use a project and you subscribe to a business plan, then the business plan clearly say that your data will not be used for training purposes, but still your chat is. So the data is not, but everything you say in the chat still, used
I
to
thought
improve
I
that.
thought that when you had a rack system, when you developed your, kind of proprietary space within, for instance, ChatGPT 5, nothing was public.
That is if you create your own system. But if you go straight into ChatGPT or Claude consumer, then even if it's a project, then you are sharing the data.
Yeah, okay.
If you use a business subscription, now ChatGPT has a very convenient business subscription, which is
Yeah.
$30 per seat, unlimited usage of ChatGPT 5. Um, but, and it says that it's not sharing uh, the
Yeah.
data, of course. So it's more business, but you're still using the platform directly. So they specify that your data is secured, but I don't see anything saying about the chat, the conversation. So that is why creating your own system is still better than using an LLM directly. And that's why every single AI provider, uh, OpenAI, owner of ChatGPT, Anthropic, owner of Claude, or Google, owner of Gemini, they all make these APIs available for you to create your own system and make sure that your operations are completely separated from the public side of ChatGPT and Claude.
What is an API?
API is a way for apps to communicate between them. So
So
basically,
the three letters mean what? What does API mean?
um,
Application?
application protocol interface, if I'm not mistaken.
Application
Because
protocol interface. I heard it already, and
yeah,
I had difficulties to
we've been
remember.
using this word API for so many years that we don't remember anymore the real acronym.
I understand.
But so it's very easy, you know.
Uh,
It's a unique code that allows one app to connect to another app, and the connection is encrypted. So basically, when you go onto the business console of one of these agents, one of these AI providers, you apply for an API, you get this unique code, and then you place this unique code in another app so that you create a bi-directional communication between the two apps, which means for AI, I use the model, the language of
mhm.
AI, but I'm not pulling any data into the AI. And even the conversation is not stored in AI. So only the technical side of AI is used, but everything else stays in your own environment, which is secure completely and nobody can ever access it. And even the memory is better because you create your own memory. So you don't have this problem of long chats anymore because everything is there and you're just using tokens. So the consumption of AI is measured in tokens. That means you're only using your tokens. You're not sharing the resources with anyone else, and that's why the machine keeps the memory longer, and that's why you get better results.
Right. I think this is a key point to have in mind for all of us who are working on with sometimes with our clients on very strategic matters, projects which relate to the future of their brands. So that's really something very important to have in mind. So thank you very much for stressing this point and handling it in detail, Marcello. And I think maybe we can now focus on a little more maybe on market research, even though we already spoke about the way
Yes.
to code verbatims, which is an important, of course, task of market researchers that we delegate to AI today. Well, more generally, I would say, what are the main possibilities that their AI offer in qualitative research?
So qualitative research. Um, let's start from the simplest use to the most difficult one. As you mentioned many times in our previous conversations, you know, the simplest use is to use AI to summarize the content. And that's something that you can, you know, still keeping an eye on privacy and sharing documents, but you can do with you can do it with any AI platform. So summarizing the content and extracting the main takeouts. But you can go much deeper because especially when you have a lot of transcripts. Let's say you just came out of a huge piece of research where you had 100 qualitative interviews. Um, and let's assume that they were done in 3 different countries. Now, the problem you are facing is that you need to read everything and it will take weeks. Then you need to isolate the findings in every single interview transcript. Then you have to connect the different findings in order to create a story. Where where AI becomes very useful when you want to have some help in crafting the story, especially because sometimes the story is not the same across different interviews, but you have one piece in one interview, another piece in another interview, and a third piece in another interview. They don't make a lot of sense if they are isolated. But if you put them together, then you have a completely new story, which is very interesting because this is something that you would probably not find if you just use your human expertise. Not because you're not able, it's because there are too many. And how can you remember the exact content of 100 interviews and then put the pieces together? It will probably take months to do it.
Uh-huh.
So the use of AI is not only to make things faster, but also to find additional insights that were going to be missed because they were spread all over the place in different interviews. Another thing, which is the third step, even further and even more interesting, when you use AI just to summarize the content of qualitative, and let's say qualitative because we can be speaking about IDIs or focus groups, or now, with all the online diaries and everything, online conversations and so forth. When you read a transcript and you just use AI to summarize, sometimes you are missing the emotional side of the response. And basically, you know what happened, but you don't know what really drove you to that situation. So you can use AI to run an emotional analysis and understand what is the sentiment of people while providing these answers, especially if you find something in common between different respondents. You can even clusterize them. You can even put them into homogeneous clusters where people behave or think in a similar way. And so it's like doing a psychographic segmentation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, and when you do that, you're definitely one, two steps forward than the usual analysis and reporting that you can do by just reading and analyzing yourself. So
Yeah.
It's a good
Yeah,
support.
I think qualitative researchers have really worked, maybe not like since 4 years like you, but at least since 2 or 3 years, and they realized that it was really a great tool to help content analysis, because thorough content analysis takes a lot of time, even if you have only 10 focus group. We are speaking about 100 interviews, but I recently had to manage 10 focus groups, transcripts, and I could really see the value, the creative value, because as you say, you may have some hypothesis, but you are not necessarily exhaustive. And clearly here the machine is helping you in having more hypotheses than what you would have if you were only who was analyzing the verbatim. So it has kind of a creative. It is for me the creative aspect of AI, and I really experience it on qualitative research very clearly, maybe much more than on quantitative research, but we will speak later about this. And of course, you need to be also using your experience to help the content analysis be as in depth emotionally driven enough, because if you just ask, please, can you, dear ChatGPT 5, can you please summarize in a concise way the 1,000 verbatims of an open end, you get what I would call a meta synthesis, which is not bad, but it tends to be very generic. And doing this is really a pity, because we have 1,000 very interesting quotations, and
Exactly.
and you arrive to something very synthetic. It's not the way qualitative researchers are working, I know, but I still want to highlight this, because especially for people who are just beginning, not necessarily market research specialists, but people beginning to use in marketing AI, they tend to sometimes go to this very quick, easy kind of usage, and I really think it's dangerous when compared to the traditional way to analyze verbatims.
You raise a good point, and it links back to the importance of writing the right prompt. So, a very short prompt asking, can you summarize these 100 interviews and give me a short summary? It's basically telling the machine, put everything together and give me an extract. If you write the right prompt, you can tell the machine exactly how to behave. So you may want to have 100 different analysis. And then once you have the 100 different analysis, the machine can actually compare all the 100, find the similarities, and come back with a solid story. It's it's the same machine, it's the same AI. It's just a different way to use it, more accurate.
Okay, so this was for qualitative research. Do you see other, apart from content analysis and building the relevant and interesting and actionable story for the client of the research, have you other points that you would like to cover related to the use of AI in qualitative research?
In qualitative or quantitative?
In qualitative first.
In
Sorry.
qualitative,
Mm.
I would say that there are three things that you always need to focus on. And the first thing, as we said, is safety of your data. The second thing and the third thing are one the consequence of the other. So the first one we said safety, the second one is rules. Always define the rules for the AI to behave. So rules are set in the prompt. So you may want to say, do not search for extra information on the web. Only use the files that I supplied. When you analyze the files, do it one by one, in order to avoid this big minestrone soup. So you want to define all these rules. Prompt engineering, it's easy once you understand how to do it, because the first thing you define is the role. Who are you? Then the rules. How do you need to behave? Third, what to do. So always define these rules. How do you want AI to behave? And the output will always be the result of the rules that you set in the prompt. So this is very important. As we said, we can have one result or a completely different result according to how you wrote the prompt.
Which is not very reassuring.
That's why, in the beginning, I said we are shifting from being experts in providing answers and becoming experts in crafting questions, right? If you
Yes.
if you craft the right prompt with the right rules,
Mhm.
the right questions, you get the right answers from AI.
Yes, because our clients generally they want answers. They don't want to receive
Exactly.
to have more questions, you know.
Exactly.
Okay, so concerning qualitative research, I think we covered interesting and important topics. Now, maybe we want to speak. No, before we go to quantitative research, what about the personas?
The personas, um, that's something that's emerging as a new way to deep dive and sometimes even fine tune or test concepts. Um, when you have a lot of qualitative data, that's basically telling you the behavioral aspect, the behavioral traits of your respondents, which are your targets. So if you run a complete new way of segmentation, which is not statistically based, but you run a segmentation based on needs, on expectations, on lifestyle. So everything that characterize their way of living, their choices, and their approach to your product or service. Then you can isolate homogeneous clusters, and AI now is able to emulate the human empathy. You can bring those clusters to life. When you bring those clusters to life, then you can actually have a direct conversation with your targets and ask questions that were not even asked during the qualitative phase and get answers to new questions just because, as we said in the beginning, some information may be scattered across different interviews, but AI was able to put them together into an homogeneous cluster. So you can have that answer even without asking the question directly. And that could help you to deep dive into specific topics. How many times our clients leave the room very happy with the results, but with additional questions saying, this is very interesting. It would be good to deep dive, but we can go back and interview the same people. AI allows that. Or if you want to test new ideas based on the results, you can find quite accurate answers on the concept and understand what is the right lexicon to communicate, what is the uh, the most resonating target, and so forth. So you optimize the next investment in terms of budget and resources.
Do you think it is really reliable? Because what about, doing like parallel research where you have done one set of qualitative research, so you are able to develop personas from, let's say, a very thorough, exhaustive piece of qualitative research. And then you
Mhm.
are going to be able to chat with these 5 or 6 or 7 types of consumers who are supposed to be emblematic of different, significant of different clusters. And you begin to talk with them and even to test some concept. How can you make sure that it is really what the real consumer would have said? What about doing parallel research, like we did at one point between internet studies and face-to-face studies when we moved to internet, to kind of, give you some reassurance about the fact that yes, it can work, because it's for me it's a bit socio-fiction. I wouldn't say science
Mhm.
fiction, but because deals with human, but sociological fiction.
So the skepticism, it's natural, it's human, but it's something that when you create AI agents that are meant for personas, is also the first thing you keep in mind. So the first skeptical person is the one who builds the AI agent. In fact, when I do it, I always add in the prompt that's managing the agent default checks. So basically, every time I get an answer from one of these clusters or all of them, there's this additional prompt that say every answer you provide, tell me where you got this information from, how you connected this information, and give me also a percentage of how much is coming from the transcripts and how much is inferred, meaning additional words that you used to make a better context.
That's a
Um,
very important point, yeah.
and
To be
that's
able
helping you.
to quantify
That,
what is coming from the transcript and what is induction.
and that's
Uh,
helping you to
uh,
verify
uh,
because when it
uh,
says this information comes from the interview that you had with Charlie and
mhm.
the interview you had with Monica, then you see this information. If you want to do an additional verification, you can go onto the transcript and check for this information. And then you realize that, okay, this is really coming from the transcript. So you verify again the reliability of the answers. So before anything goes public, there's always a quality check where you test the machine and you compare it with the research material.
Do you set targets for the percentages coming from transcript and the percentages which is inferred?
Uh, it's up to you. So you may have some settings already. So
Mhm.
for instance, I had a project where we were interviewing different types of restaurants. So the segments were already defined by whether you were interviewing a fast food restaurant or an independent restaurant or something different. So the segments were already created, um, and the analysis becomes more of, hey, this persona is representing this type of restaurant. If you don't have a preset segmentation, then you can use AI to run this psychographic segmentation, especially when it comes to general population. So the segmentation is mostly done on lifestyle behavior and preferences.
Okay. Well, I think for Qual, we went quite far in the topic. What about the output that we could have using AI in quantitative research? What about, for instance, automatization of graphs, editing of PowerPoint reports?
That's where I do fear that AI is going to steal some of the low-level jobs, especially, junior analyst, because, everything that you used to do with software like SPSS or R can now be done in AI, where you upload the data file and with the right prompt, you just ask AI to run the statistical analysis and create the tables for you. And then you create charts from the table. Or you can even go further and create a system where you upload the file and AI is running the statistical analysis and even creating charts or even a PowerPoint with the charts in it. So there's a lot of automation here.
Maybe I was not so clever trying to do this, but so far, even with ChatGPT 5, and not being developed to, of course, to not being an IT person, I'm trying just to use the GPT, I couldn't arrive to what I wanted in this area.
Let me also say something. You probably noticed that for every AI provider, there's a number of different models. Now, every model is specialized on something.
Yes.
So, ChatGPT 5 may be good for something, but not good for something else. So, for instance, in terms of quant analysis, the 5 is better than the 5.2. Uh, when it comes to qualitative, for instance, uh, Sonnet, Claude Sonnet,
Mm-hmm.
4.5, and now there's 4.6. It's much more focused on the humanized
Mm-hmm.
answer. So
Okay.
that's why even within the same provider, you need to find the right one. So for instance, let's still talk about ChatGPT. ChatGPT, in terms of generating images and charts, the 5 is not the best one. You may go, you may want to go down to 4 or 4.0. That's better to create images. So sometimes for the same data file, you need to use different models to achieve different things.
Yeah, I probably do this in the following days with you on some examples of CSV and Excel data files issued from quantitative research, because so far this is really where I struggle the most. So that's interesting. Also, what you say is that each AI may have some advantages, or even each version within
Mhm.
the system may have different pros and cons. So you very clearly highlighted the great capacities of Claude, as other colleagues have also highlighted to be for qualitative, for content analysis, and being able to go really in depth with human material. This seems to be a consensus among qualitative market researchers about this. I know that some very big institutes have built what you call, the API and their own systems. And in this system, they have they use both ChatGPT, Claude, and even
Yeah,
maybe Perplexity
I also do
or
that.
Gemini.
It's
Uh,
something you definitely
this
need
is something you
diversify
do. You
according to
do.
the need.
Yeah. So, for instance, for your company, the Lime Agency, which models which AI do you have you aggregated?
I tend to stick to Anthropic and OpenAI, because in terms of market research, they work very well. One for humanizing, one for more quantitative operations. So I use
Right.
OpenAI, ChatGPT more for quant,
Okay.
and Claude more for
For qual.
qual. And another thing that it's more evident in Claude. You have Sonnet, you have Opus, you have IQ. So three different models within the same provider.
Mm-hmm.
And so Sonnet is more is better for the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Opus is better for the deep analysis if you want to go very deep in terms of the emotional drivers, understanding the connections between uh, different sources of information. Um, to be honest, I use Opus more and more to identify what I call signals. Signals are very small phenomena that are just about to appear. So in let's say in 100 interviews, we're using this
Mhm.
example. You may have three, four people speaking about the same topic or just lightly touching this topic.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I use Opus to identify those pocket conversations and try to understand whether they will become mainstream in 6 to 8 months from now.
They are early signal.
Right. And these
With
represent
or
a
weak signal.
competitive advantage for the client
Of
because
course.
they know something ahead of the competition,
Yeah,
which
and
ties back to the idea of
yeah,
strategic
yeah, strategic
insights.
prompting and not doing too plain summaries of verbatim,
Yes,
but to be able to spend some time to also to go through the verbatim and to see what could be these weak signals that then AI may help you, conceptualize, from what I understood,
correct.
and so it makes it strategic. But if you don't first even yourself go through all the verbatim, you won't see them. So okay, what about Gemini? You didn't speak of and Perplexity.
Uh, so perplexity. Um, people are people have mixed um, ideas about perplexity because perplexity is very much based on the use of their perplexity browser. So I tend not to use it, and maybe it's just my personal fear, but training the machine on what people search and visit on the web using their browser, to me, doesn't sound professional enough for the type of use that I want to do with AI.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, it gives me an idea of more of a consumer thing than business related. Gemini, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't touch it because Gemini is very good for two things, I think. One is coding. If you want, if you're an IT person, you need some coding support, and for media generation. So generating images, generating audio files, uh, something where GPT is also very good. They just launched Sora 2, which is very good in generating media. But then we come back to our industry, market research. How much media do we use in our analysis and reporting? Uh, Not much, unless we want to beautify the reports.
Yeah.
And that's when maybe Gemini and GPT play a nice role, especially because if you want to put some pictures in your deck, you don't want to run into copyright problems because
Mm-hmm.
you're using a photo done by somebody else. Then you sometimes you may want to use something AI generated as long as it's looking professional. So I did create a small chatbot for myself where the prompt literally says, "Do not provide anything that looks like a cartoon," because AI has this tendency of providing images that look like, very cartoonish. So
There is
even
this
for
kind
that,
the Studio Ghibli trend.
yeah, even for that, you need to be very specific and say,
Yeah.
I need professional pictures meant
Uh,
to be used in a market research tech.
and again, you need to give an example, which is the best way to ensure that you'll get the right materials. It's something when you in the prompt, as you mentioned, and maybe we can conclude again on this because I see the time is running, but you need to be very specific and very sequential
Always.
in the way you prompt, and in also to be sure that you are going to get the right format. You need to provide also in the prompting an example of something which is similar and that you have been doing before, and that you want the machine to
Yes.
not to do the same because the data are different, but at least to get as close as it is in the final output.
Just to give you, and then we wrap up, just to give a very silly but direct example. If you want an image of a person sipping a coffee, you have to be very specific, saying holding a cup of coffee in the right hand and drinking. Because if you say something generic, give me the picture of a person drinking coffee, you may get a picture of somebody drinking coffee with a straw, which is something not real, right? So you need to be very specific in what you want.
Except for iced coffee.
Except for iced coffee. That's true.
Okay. So yes, now we need to wrap up. What would be your ultimate advice to all these researchers who well, are struggling, are already quite happy with what the different tools can do in content analysis, personas? What would be your advice to us?
I would say don't fear AI. AI is not your enemy. AI is your support, is your assistant. So embrace AI. And if you don't feel familiar with AI yet, use it whenever you can. And always run stress tests. So always try to bring AI to the maximum so to see where the limits are. Once you understand the limits, then you can figure out how much you can trust AI.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Marcello. It was a pleasure to do this interview with you today, and looking forward to new projects where we are going to work together.
Sounds good. With pleasure. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye.
Thanks to you.